Hi, and welcome to Art with Mrs. Torres. It's finally December. I'm so excited. I have been waiting patiently for it to become cooler where I live. And finally, it's feeling like it's going to be winter. Now, we are going to be making a project today about winter wonderland animals. And we are going to be using some basic shapes like a circle, a triangle, a square, and maybe an oval to create our animals. The other items that you are going to be looking for in your house today are a piece of paper. You're going to need a pencil and an eraser. Of course, our Sharpie marker, what we use almost every lesson, and then something to color with. So I'm going to let you choose. You could use markers, you could use colored pencils, or you could use my favorite, crayons. So go ahead and gather up those items and then meet me back here and we will begin our lesson. Well, welcome back. Let's get ready to do our project. So today we are going to be drawing two winter woodland buddies. We're going to be using a couple things. You're going to need a pencil and an eraser, a piece of paper. Now you can use construction paper, paper that comes out of the printer. I'm using a little bit heavier weight paper today, but whatever you got will be great. You're also going to need a Sharpie marker. And lastly, something to color with. So you could use markers, colored pencils, or my personal favorite, crayons. So decide what you'd like to work with. And you might even want to do a combination. I did a combination of both markers and crayons for my project. So gather up those items, pause the video, and meet me back here when you have everything ready. Welcome back. Let's get ready to start our project. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing is making sure our paper is horizontal. We're going to be folding our paper in half. Now, I like to fold my paper on the table. The reason I fold it on the table and not up in the air is I'm able to get a better crease on my paper. Now, the only reason we're going to crease it is that way we have our paper divided in half so we can draw one animal on one side and the other animal on the other. So today, when we're drawing, we're going to be starting with our pencil, and we're going to be beginning by drawing just a few basic shapes to create our animals. So the first shape we're going to create for our reindeer, we're going to go over here to the left side of our paper, and we're going to begin by drawing an oval. Now, I'm going to have you practice with your finger first before you actually draw with your pencil. Now you'll notice I'm not doing anything up in this top area. That's where our deer's antlers are going to be. So I'm going to practice making my oval with my fingers. Then I'm going to take my pencil and draw an oval. Please don't worry if your oval isn't perfectly round. It doesn't matter. We're going to change it up later anyway. Next, we're going to draw two lines to help us draw the shoulders. We're just going to draw a curved line coming out from underneath. Now, the next shape we're going to draw is a circle right here at the bottom. I told you we're going to be creating this entire animal picture using just basic shapes. So down here on the bottom, we're going to draw a circle. And then at the top, we're going to draw another circle right up here. Next, we're going to draw an oval on the side. And another oval on the side here. So now we've drawn two ovals, an oval here, a circle or an oval, circle or an oval for the nose. And basically that's pretty much a half of a circle here. Now the final part of our reindeer is to draw the antlers. So we're going to begin by drawing a very light line that looks like an animal or an insect's antennas. Now, it's not going to stay looking like this for long, but we're going to be creating a reindeer antler by drawing two short lines and two short lines. We're going to do the same thing on this side, two short lines. Now, I'm making my lines go on an angle, tilting up, but however you draw yours is fine. Now, this is just the base of our antler. We're going to actually be erasing all of that. It's kind of like the bones. of the drawing. And what we're going to do now is we're going to trace around this shape. So I'm going to trace from the head. I'm going to go around. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to come back. Now this line goes up, so I'm going to go up. I'm just kind of copying whatever I see, and I'm tracing right next to that line. See how I'm doing that? I'm going to trace up and over, up and over. Now when I get here, I'm not going to go straight out. I'm going to come down because this line's going down. Then I'm going to trace around, and then my final line is going to come right back down to the head. Now on the other antler, I'm going to follow the same thing. I'm just copying the line next to it. So if the line goes straight up, I'm going straight up. If it tilts out, I'm tilting out. If it goes down, I'm going down. When I'm finished with that, now my antlers are done, I can go in and erase the inside line. We don't need that anymore. Now our antlers will stay white. So you want to do a good job erasing that line. If it's too small of a spot, you can also use the end of your pencil to go in and get those lines that are really tiny that maybe your big eraser can't get in. We're going to erase our lines inside of our antlers, and then we're going to move on to drawing the basic shape for our bear. So we're going to go around this side of the paper now, and our basic shape for the bear is going to start with a square. So we did an oval over here. This time for the bear, we're going to do a square. We're going to do it a little bit higher on the paper, right about here. So I'm going to start by drawing the top and the bottom and the sides. Now you notice I'm drawing this very lightly. I'm not drawing really hard because we're going to be changing the shape later. Now on top of that square, I'm going to draw a triangle. So I told you we're going to be drawing this whole picture out of basic shapes. So I did a square and a triangle. All right, now my square almost looks like a rectangle. I'm going to shorten it up just a little bit. All right, from here, we're going to create our bear now. So the first thing we're going to do is round out the corners by drawing 2 half circles. And then I'm going to round the corner of his chin here and here. Get rid of those sharp corners. And then we're going to go down here where his shoulders are going to be, and I'm going to round out his shoulders. Now we're going to draw his muzzle right here in the center. So I'm just going to make a big oval or circle. I'm going to add another oval or circle here. I like to make an oval kind of on its side like this. Then I'm going to draw a short line coming right down the middle. And you can make him smiling if you'd like to. Next, I'm going to add the eyes. So I'm going to go right over here, close to the muzzle, and draw 2 large eyes. I'm going to match my eyes on this reindeer as well, or deer. It's not necessarily a reindeer. So I'm going to go over here and draw 2 large ovals. And then I like to make my eyes look just a little bit happier. If you just make the oval like this, that's fine. But if you want to make the eyes look just a little happier, you can draw the lower eyelid slightly curved like this. I'm going to add a half of a circle in the eye, and that's going to be my shiny light. So later, this part of the eye, I'll color in with my marker. So I'm going to just put a little bit of pencil stroke in there just to remind me that that part is the part I'm going to color with my marker later. I do a little half circle up there for a highlight. Now, at this point, my bear looks kind of like he's wearing a birthday party hat, but I want it to look more like a ski cap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle here on its side. And then right here at the top, I'm going to draw a large circle. Now I'm going to erase the lines inside that rectangle. And erase the lines inside that circle there. And then I'm going to add a little decoration around. Oh, I forgot to put a mouth on my poor little reindeer. He's not smiling at this point. He doesn't even have a mouth. There, that's better. Now, my characters both could probably do with something to keep them warm. So we could put a sweater on our bear. We could put a cute shirt on our bear, or we could just put a big scarf around his neck. Now, the way I draw my scarves is I start right here on the corner, and I'm going to go right next to his cheek, and I'm going to kind of overlap a little bit of his chin, just a little bit, so it's not quite so perfect. And then I'm going to make another swooping line that comes all the way around the front of this. Then I'm going to erase the shoulders inside. Now it kind of looks like he has a donut around his neck, but we're going to turn it into a scarf now. So I'm going to go over here to this side. You could also do it on this side. And I'm going to make one part of the scarf coming down the front. So I'm going to overlap this part just a little bit and bring this line down, close it off at the bottom. And then I'm going to erase this section right here. So I'm just going to go with my magic glove, erase those lines, redraw the lines that I want to keep, and now I have a scarf. Now for my reindeer, I can do the same thing. I can just draw a swooping line that looks kind of like he's got a donut wrapped around his neck. I'm going to erase the shoulder lines in here. And for this one, I could make the scarf hanging down on this side or this side, or I could make the scarf kind of blowing in the wind. You could even add some tassels, which are rectangle shapes on the end. Now when I'm finished drawing my characters, then I'm going to go in now and use my Sharpie marker to add more details. We're going to change things up just a little bit with our Sharpie marker. So get Sharpie marker ready. Remember, put that lid on the back. Always make sure you snap these tight when you're done using them. So right now, he's still looking kind of stiff. We're going to kind of furry him up just a little bit. You can keep him looking smooth on the side, or you can give him a little fur. So let me show you. This is a smooth line, and you can do that, or you could change it up just slightly and make him more furry. So let me show you how I do that. So first off, I'm going to go over my lines 2 times. When I am doing a cartoon, I like to do my lines a little bit thick like this. And it just kind of makes everything show up a little better, but you can do a single line and that's fine too. So if you want to make them a little furrier, you could just go like this and make just a little bit of fur on the side. You go over that line 2 times, and I'll show you the comparison of the 2 when I'm done. I'm going to retrace my line on the ear, and then I'm going to just give him a little bit of fur on the side of his cheek here. And I'll show you the difference. They both look great. It's just 2 different styles. Next, I'm going to trace his eyes. Now, when I get ready to do his actual eyeball, I hold my pen straight up and down because I can get a skinnier point when I'm holding my marker straight up and down. Do you see the difference? If I hold the marker on the side, I get a fat line. If I hold it straight up and down, I can get a really fine line. Then I can go in and color in the pupils while the marker is up and down and skinny. Now I'm going to go in and trace his nose and his smile. And you can trace the entire muzzle, or you could just trace the top half of the muzzle like that. In this one, I didn't even trace the muzzle. So each time I do it, you can do it a little different. You can add a little mark up there for his eyebrows. And then when you're finished, you're going to take your pencil and your eraser and erase all the pencil lines you don't want to keep. So go in here and erase this. It's starting to come together. Now this hat still to me looks a little stiff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the shape just a little bit. I'm going to kind of wibble wobble the lines on the side. Now this is part of the hat. It's called the brim. And then I'm going to kind of make this a little bit more chunky up here. For a puffball, I could do it smooth, or I could make it more fluffy. See how you're just adding a few little extra details that totally changes up the look. For the scarf, I'm going to retrace those lines. Now, when you're tracing, you can also add a little bit of a wrinkle on the side. You can add patterns when we're done. I wouldn't work on that yet until we have everything traced over. So I want you to notice the bottom of my picture versus the face of my picture. So you'll see that these lines, they almost look like I haven't finished my work because I haven't gone in and made them thick like the face. So it just takes an extra little time to add a second line with your marker. You don't have to, but it definitely is going to make your picture stand out a little bit more when you're done drawing it. So I go over each one of my lines. You notice I keep my pen on a slight angle as I'm doing this too. So I'm using kind of the side of the pen, not the tip of the pen. So the tip I save and I use that in for the tiny areas, like when we were doing the eye. I don't have a lot of room at the bottom of my scarf here to do tassels, so I think for this one I won't do tassels. So when I'm finished with my bear, then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to now change up the look of my reindeer a little bit. So the first part is, instead of having the top of the reindeer's head smooth, I'm going to give my reindeer just a little bit of hair at the top. I'm going to retrace the ear. I use those ovals as my guide. And then I'm going to give the inside of the ear a little curve. Matter of fact, I should do that on my bear too, don't you think? That would look good. That looks better. Now for the cheeks, I can keep it smooth like I did here, or I could change it up and I could give my reindeer a little bit of fur on the cheeks. So I'm going to go about halfway down, and then I'm just going to give a little bit of chubbier cheeks. So this is the fun part about art. You don't have to copy what I do. You can create your picture the way you want your animals to look. Every single time I draw something, it changes. Even if I draw the same exact picture 2 times in a row or 3 times in a row, it always looks different. I'm always changing my mind and experimenting. When I'm finished, I'm going to trace my nose and my mouth. On this picture, my reindeer was not smiling. He was kind of like going, ooh, his mouth is open. And this one, I'm going to make my reindeer smiling. I'm going to trace just the top half of the muzzle this time, kind of to match my bear. And then I'm going to trace those cheeks. And I'm going to get ready to use just the tip of my marker, holding it straight up and down, to trace those eyes with a nice fine point that way. You also always want to be really careful with your markers. Our Sharpie markers are so nice because you get a really sharp point, but that only happens when you're careful with them. If you're pushing down really hard, you know that you're breaking that tip of the marker. We call that the nib of the marker, and you don't get a fine point after a while. Even I have to switch mine out after a while because they just wear down. All right, when I'm done, I'm going to go up and trace my antlers. And I'm going to go over my lines twice. As I'm looking at the hat on my bear, can you tell that my hat looks a little different than the ears? Can anybody see what I did differently on my hat? What did I forget to do on my hat? Look at the ears of my bear. Look at the cheeks of my bear, the side of my bear's face. Can you catch it, what I forgot to do? I forgot to put a second coat of ink on the outline of my hat. So my hat is a little bit skinnier. When I'm done doing my reindeer, do you notice I'm rotating my paper too? This is the way I like to work. I like to always pull my marker to me. See how I'm pulling it down to the bottom? I'm not pushing it up. So you'll notice I'm constantly moving my paper and rotating it like this. And the reason I do that is when I'm pulling my marker to me, it doesn't make that terrible squeaking sound, number one. And number two, I can keep my tip of my marker nice and pointed, and you get a smoother line too. So I'm going to pull my marker to trace around his ears. Now I'm going to trace the side of his scarf. I'm going to give it a little wrinkle right there on the side. See how I did that? Just went 1, 2. I'm going to go over those lines twice, turning my paper again, and trace my bottom of my scarf, shoulders 2 times. When I'm all finished, I'm going to go back in and fix the hat on my bear too. All right, let's fix that hat. So now we're going to get ready to do our coloring. And when you're coloring your animals today, you have a choice. You can use markers or you can use crayons. I use a combination of both. You could also paint your picture if you did your project on heavier paper like cardstock or construction paper. You could use watercolor paints and paint your picture also. But for today, I'm going to be using some crayons and markers. I'm going to use both. All right, marker closed up. Take my magic rubber eraser, erase my pencil lines. You're going to erase your pencil lines. I am going to be using some crayons. Now, when I'm using crayons, I put them in a cup, like a coffee mug or a little glass like this, as I use my colors. That way they're easier for me to find later. But if I'm storing them, they're just in a box like that. Now, markers, I do the same thing. I just keep them in some type of container that are easy for me to reach. You can use a coffee mug or a glass or a cup, or keep them in the box. First thing I'm going to do is choose a color for my reindeer. Now, if you're using markers, I would not recommend making your reindeer brown. Let me show you how dark the brown is on our Crayola markers. So I'm going to color his nose with the brown just so you can see. I'm going to leave a little highlight at the top of the nose, and I'm going to color his nose with the marker. Do you see how dark the brown is that comes in our set? It's just too dark. If you were to color the entire reindeer that color, he would almost look black. I know on camera that brown almost looks black, doesn't it? So I have found that a better color to use in your Crayola marker box, if you bought the same box that I have, is the peach. It's a nice color, and it turns really light, and you can change the color even after you're done using the marker. So I'm going to go across my reindeer with the peach color. And you'll notice I'm pulling my marker in one direction like this. I'm not scribbling back and forth. I'm trying to do it as quick as I can. And when you get to a small spot, you can then tilt your marker up and use the tip. Once I have colored the face with this peach color, you can leave it this color, or you can go in and change the color later. Now, if you want to make your deer be Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, then you would not be using brown for the nose. You would use red. You could use a red crayon or a marker, and I would recommend putting a little shiny highlight at the top of the nose. So you kind of want to space that out when you're using the markers. All right, so there's the peach. I'm just showing you at first glance what it would look like. I'm also going to do his body underneath the scarf. I'm trying to work quickly here, but I hope you take a little bit more time when you're doing yours. So once I have it done with this color, now I can go in and I can change it up a little. So you'll see that this looks great, this color, but watch this. I can go in now with a brown crayon over the peach, and check this out. So as I use this brown crayon over the peach, it makes just a beautiful light brown color. It's just another way of adding something different where you're mixing two different art supplies together to create something new. I'm not pushing really hard. I'm just putting a light coat of this brown on for the shoulders, chest. And then if you want to rosy up the cheeks a little bit, or if you chose to make your deer Rudolph, you could do red on the nose. But what I use, not a marker, I'm going to go in with a crayon. So you probably have a pink, but you'll notice the pink is a little light. It's not going to show up very well. The color that I like to do in my crayon box is violet red. So this makes a really nice color for the cheeks. And I just scribble it right here to put a little blush in the cheek. I'm going to try the pink on this side. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's just so light you can't see it. I mean, it barely shows up, but I think you get a better color with the violet red. Or if you have a bright pink, you could use that too. See, that adds a little detail to it. You can put a little bit in the ear. And then I'm going to show you one more trick on the antlers. So for the antlers, they're white, but they look so flat. Here's a little trick. You can take either gray or blue and make a light shadow. So let me show you in this picture how I did a light shadow with the gray. See that? So if you don't have a gray crayon, you could also use a blue crayon as long as you color it very lightly. So I'm just going to take a hint of blue and I'm going to brush just a tiny light coat around one side. I'm choosing the right side for my shaded side on each little section of my antlers. It kind of looks like a little shadow. So let me show it to you close up. See that? That's just a little bit of a dimension to the reindeer. Then you can choose what color you want your scarf to be. Now moving on to the bear, you have a couple choices here. You could make your bear be a polar bear, and if he was going to be a polar bear, you would not have to color him. You would just shade him like we did the antlers. So you would shade the edges with either a gray or a light blue. So let me show you what that would look like. So I'm going to do the gray this time, and I'm going to make him a polar bear. So I'm just going to put a little bit of shadow around the edge, just a tiny bit, and a little shadow right up here, middle of his nose. Little shadow on his shoulders. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can use either gray or blue. I like to sometimes combine the two. So I'm going to brush a little bit of blue over the gray now. And this is going to make a cool gray. Then I can go in with that violet red and put a little bit of color right here, just so he doesn't look so flat and white. For his nose, you could use your markers and color his nose black, or you could do the same thing with a crayon. So I would leave a highlight and then color in his nose. So either a marker or a crayon, I'm just showing you lots of options here. Oh, colored pencils too would look wonderful because you've got a nice tight point to get in there. And then when you're done with your polar bear, what you would want to do though, in my recommendation, because you would have a white background and a white bear, you want to really make sure that you color some type of background behind your polar bear. So what I do in that situation is I would take a crayon and color a really light coat of blue or dark blue or something in the background just to make the polar bear show up. So one way that you can do that is with a broken crayon, or you can just use the tip of your crayon and color it very softly. You see what I'm doing? I'm just coloring in one direction. You could also use paint and do this with paint, or you could cut out your polar bear and you could glue him onto a different colored background to help your white bear show up so that you're not putting white next to white. So this is just one quick way of making your polar bear show up. See, now he's going to stand out a little bit more, especially once I color his scarf. So when you get ready to do the scarf, I want you to have some fun. Scarves and hat, you could figure out your favorite color scheme and have them have matching scarves, or you could do it a little different and, kind of mix it up a little bit. You could do a Christmas theme, a Hanukkah theme. You could do just a winter theme, your favorite colors. You could do rainbow. You could add snowflakes in the background if you'd like to. So there's lots of things that you can do with your picture. I hope you had fun today. I can't wait to see what you come up with. I'd love you to send me an email with your artwork. You can send it to rtorres@lcusd.net. Send me an email with an attachment of a picture that you drew. I would love to see it, and I promise to write you back. Have a great day. See you next time. Bye.